Hi guys, welcome to my new channel, Bethany Loves Food. Today I'll be preparing a salmon onion caper dish and I'm really excited about sharing this with you. So let's get started. So basically what we're going to do to get started is add a half of a tablespoon of butter to the pan. And I know that looks like a little bit more than that because I actually removed some of it a little bit later, but about a half of a tablespoon of butter will work just fine because what we're going to do is crank the heat up to a medium high level. That way we can brown or at least get some of the onions a little bit brown before we add some of the other ingredients. So then what we're going to do is cut the onions in a half moon shape. So a half of an onion is really all you'll need for this recipe because I have two, as you can see, two salmon fillets. So a half of an onion cut in moon shapes is the way to go. And the reason why I'm doing it that way is because it's just easier to put on top of the salmon, and rather than cutting it and dicing it up, half moons just works the best. So definitely do that. So next what I'm going to do after I've added all of the onions and given it a good little stir, then I'm going to add some lemon pepper seasoning. Now when you're buying lemon pepper seasoning, really you can't go wrong. So anything at your local grocery store works just fine. So make sure that you add that, and then once that's added, just give it another little stir. Now what we're going to do is add about 1 to 2 tablespoons of olive oil to the pan. The reason why we're doing that is because we don't want the butter to burn, and on a medium-high temperature, it's always a good thing to do. Okay, so now what we're going to do is add 2 cloves of garlic to the onions. And the only reason why I use 2 cloves of garlic is because, frankly, I just like garlic. So what you want to do is give that a really good stir. And then once you've incorporated that into the onions, then what we're going to do is just add really a handful of cilantro chopped up, and I like cilantro a lot. If I know that a lot of people have this thing about cilantro where either you like it or you hate it. So if you don't like it, you can always substitute parsley. Parsley will work just fine. So give that a good whirl. Okay, so now after you've incorporated the cilantro, we're going to add a half of a squeezed lemon. Pretty proud about this part of my video because that lemon is from my tree. Yes, I grow lemons and it's a great investment to have because I love to cook. So a half of a lemon will do just fine. Now we want to give it a good stir and make sure that nothing's sticking to the bottom and make sure that the lemon's incorporated. Lemon goes really well with salmon. Okay, so now that we have squeezed the lemon, now what we're going to do is add a half of a cup. I know that seems like a lot, but a half of a cup of soy sauce. I actually prefer low sodium. Um, so a half of a cup of soy sauce, give that a good stir, and it will kind of bring the temperature down a little bit just because you're adding something to the pan, but don't worry about that. So as soon as you incorporate that, let it sit there for a little bit and bring it to a boil, because what we're going to try and do now, adding the soy sauce, is we really want it to reduce um, quite a bit, not completely by half, but we do want it to reduce a little bit. We still want it juicy, but not as much. And what that will do, the reduction of the soy sauce, is give it more flavor. And of course, it's always good to have more flavor. So go ahead and let that boil up a bit until it's reduced a little bit, close to half. Okay, so now you can see that the soy sauce has reduced almost by half. Not completely, but almost. So now what you want to do is add a half a cup of capers. And the capers, I don't know if you've had capers before, but they are nice and briny and they really add a ton of flavor to this recipe. So I wouldn't skip the capers personally, just because you want that little bit of bite to the dish. And I love capers. They go in many different things. Okay, so now once you've added the capers, and the capers have kind of plumped up a little bit because they're kind of taking some of the soy sauce juice, I'm just going to add that on top of the actual salmon fillets. So one thing that's really important to keep in mind, I wouldn't spread it out all over the fillets. Make sure that you keep it on top in the center of the salmon because you don't want to have any of the onions burning. We didn't cook the onions all the way through because we will be putting it in a 400-degree oven for about 10 minutes. Now, depending on the size of your salmon, it's really up to you. If you have a really thick cut salmon, you definitely want to make sure that you cook it a little bit longer. You can also, if it's a really big salmon, you can sometimes cook it at like 375 for a little bit longer until you start seeing some of the white color come out of the salmon, but it's always good to check it with a fork. You can always like just stab it in the middle to see that it's been cooked through. It's really important with fish, I can't stress this enough, to not overcook it. So that's why this particular cut of sockeye salmon, I'm only cooking for about 10 minutes in a high 400-degree oven. So just make sure that you check that. Okay, so here is the finished product. I just took it out of the oven and it smells amazing in my kitchen right now. I don't know if you've ever cooked with soy sauce, but it does give up a really good smell. So with the onions and the soy sauce and the capers and the lemon and that little bit of butter in the onions, it just smells amazing in here and I cannot wait to try it. Okay, so now as you can see, I'm taking a little peeky at the salmon with my spatula just to make sure that it is cooked. And sure enough, it is cooked perfectly. So it's really important to use your spatula. I can't stress this enough on this meal because you kind of want to loosen it a little bit from all the juice. And it's just a perfect tool to use to actually take the salmon out because you don't want the salmon to fall apart. And seems how this is a cut where it is no skin. It's just easier that way. So look at how beautiful that is. I love this dish. It's so delicious. And I just burnt myself, as you can see as well. So it smells amazing. It tastes amazing. And I really hope you guys try this recipe. Great for entertaining. Great for family. It's really good with rice or something healthier, even just steamed vegetables if that's what you prefer. Really goes with anything. So I hope you like what you saw today. If you did, please like my first video ever. Super excited. There's going to be so many more to come, so many cooking ideas that I have that I want to share with everyone. So thanks for watching today, and please always subscribe. I'd love to have you as a subscriber and try out some of my stuff. So thanks so much for joining me. Bethany Loves Food. Ciao.